Aujourd'hui, je veux parler de, well, you know how I feel about the mainstream media, especially the financial media, and yet I can't stop laughing at them. So today I want to dig into the latest list of advice that publications like CNBC is putting out there, right? 21 rules of money from a Harvard-trained economist. Ooh, expert advice, supposedly. So is it good? We shall see. Yeah, XenPuck here. So let me be clear, right? I am not against experts. I mean, I know there are plenty of people who know more than I do about, well, every single subject under the sun, right? Heck, I don't even claim to know the most about personal finance, but I sure know more than most people, or I wouldn't have been able to retire before I turned 40, right? Still, today's article that I'll be examining is from CNBC, a publication that I have almost no regards for, but somehow it keeps showing up in my Apple newsfeed because I guess I like the topic. The author is a Harvard man who studied economics. See, for most people this sounds like a great set of qualifications. I can't argue the school, but I am very curious whether a trained economist can actually give reasonable money advice, right? Because personal finance is not really the same as macroeconomics. But hey, 21 rules sounds like a reasonable amount. I want to run through them fairly quickly, and by the end I'd like to give a tally to see which advice I considered reasonable versus which ones are total BS, right? And maybe there's some that are in the middle, kind of neutral. So without further ado, let's get to it. Article will be linked in the description below, right? Okay, so on the list. Advice number 1, don't borrow for college. Just go to a cheaper, aka crappier school and get scholarships. Wait, what? Absolutely not on this. This is trash advice, especially coming from someone who went to Harvard. So you can go to the best school in the country and everyone else should just aim lower? What? I mean, I agree in the sense that you should go to a school that you can reasonably afford, but not to borrow anything for college is bonkers to me, right? That would disqualify the vast majority of high school graduates in the country from going to any place outside a community college. So this is bullshit, right? Complete elitist BS. Yeah, I said it again. Horrible advice. Ignore this. Right. Number 2, if your parents are borrowing for your tuition, discuss who will repay. Huh? Again, terrible advice. Your parents should be paying for what they can afford only, not taking out loans to pay for your education. What the heck? So the first piece of advice is to be frugal, but then this so-called expert assumes that their parents, that the kids' parents will mortgage their future? How does that make any sense at all together? Horrible advice. Ignore. Number 3, own your home, don't rent, try to buy in cash. I can only call this one neutral in terms of advice, right? Of course it's better to own, and even better to buy in cash. But with how wages are these days, following this advice would also mean most people would be excluded from buying a home until they're like retirement age, which is just silly. Number 4, mortgages are taxed and financial losers. Pay them off ASAP. The example that he gives is that if you had 100K, I guess in cash, earning 1.5%, it'd be worse than 100K in debt or a mortgage at 3.2% in interest. Yeah, that would make sense if you're an insane person who expects 100K to gain only 1.5% a year, which is basically like leaving it in a savings account or a CD. I'm expecting a good chunk of dough like that to be making 7 to 11% a year on average, okay? Well above any mortgage rate. So from a FIRE perspective, this advice is rated, yep, once again, horrible. Please ignore. Number 5 is owning a home can reduce longevity risk. This isn't actually a different advice, just a justification for advice number 3, I think. I guess this guy is trained in economics, but not in English. Okay, so I can only call this one neutral. Number 6, your perfect home may be far cheaper several time zones away. Kind of true. I mean, the problem with this advice is that people don't buy homes simply because of the structure. We buy it because of proximity to work, family, friends, weather, maybe. So just saying land or houses may be cheaper in a different state doesn't mean anything. Most people simply will not move for the sole sake of the actual house itself. So I rate this advice, once again, horrible. Number 7, choose jobs that everyone but you hates. Whoa, this is kind of weird, okay? I mean, I get the main point. You want to be a specialist, especially because in a capitalist world, that's who gets paid the most. However, this is assuming that somehow we all have the kind of tendency to love something everybody else hates. I'd argue most people, again, are pack animals and we love and hate the same thing as our peers. This isn't specifically bad advice, just bad because it would only apply to a tiny, tiny, tiny minority of people who are able to find jobs like that. So in terms of generic advice, horrible, ignore. Number 8, don't worry about career and job hopping. Okay, I actually found a piece of advice from this expert that I agree with. Yes, do this, get raises much faster than moving jobs. Totally true. Advice rated, yes, do it. Number 9, consider working for yourself. Okay, he did say consider, not go work for yourself. I'm going to call this neutral because, you know, you can consider anything and not do it, right? Does that really matter? The real reality is that most people are followers and could never make it work working for themselves. Sorry. Number 10, keep thinking about the future. Okay, I agree with this, even though I don't think this is particularly money advice. It's just life advice, right? One should always be planning ahead. So we'll say yes, do it. Number 11, your living standard is your bottom line. Weird phrasing, but I also agree with the sentiment. It's just good to be aware of your absolute basic standard levels, right? And also a way to mentally ward off lifestyle inflation. Again, this is more like a mental exercise than actionable piece of advice. But since I agreed, we'll call it yes, do it. Number 12, a marriage beats partnering long term. What? Again, not advice. This is not observation. Frankly, most people who are, dating long term do get married for no other reason but like social convention and pressure, right? So while I agree with the sentiment, I can only call this one a neutral. I mean, the real issue is more about finding that special someone that you'd actually want to settle down with. Number 13, if you do get married, count down getting divorced. What? This dude is really starting to sound like an actual moron to me. This is horrible advice. No one should be counting on getting divorced, right? Is this just in here for shock value? I mean, yes, the divorce rate is high, but it is inflated by people who marry and divorce, that same person, okay? Not to mention the less educated. If you actually take your time picking the right partner, this should not be an issue. Number 14, all lifestyle decisions, switching careers, moving homes, getting married, having kids, getting divorced, comes at a price. Okay, once again, this is not money advice. This is just an observation. That's like saying, everything in life comes at a price, or nothing worth having is free, or some other such generic cliche but technically true idioms, right? I think it's totally dumb on the list, but not untrue, so we'll call it neutral. Number 15, use retirement account contributions, conversions, and withdrawals to cut your lifetime taxes. Okay, yep, this one's true. I'll rate it, yes, do it. However, I just want to add that this is so simple that not only did I not need a Harvard-level economist to tell me, I mean, really, any financial advisor that you might interview would tell you this bit for free, okay? So this guy is just not earning my respect, okay? Number 16, wait until age 70 to take Social Security. Okay, I'd say this is mostly true for most people, so yes, do it. Number 17, if you don't formally request Social Security benefits, you won't get it. Okay, this one might be the first good nugget of gold. Yes, please do it on this one. Number 18, Social Security programs have tons of rules and its staff can get it wrong. So you should, basically, do your due diligence. I think this is true. Very fair. I'd say use an accountant, in fact, so do it. Number 19, retiring early is financial suicide. Oh my god, this dude's reasoning for not retiring early is that retiring is a giant vacation and we'd lose out on decades of earning. Ooh, so scary. I guess that's a good thing because before I decided to leave the corporate world, I already looked up not only decades, but lifetime earnings of people in various educational levels to compare to where I was at the time. And guess what? I already beat the highest level of average lifetime earnings. Not in decades, but entire lifetimes, so I think I'm good. By the way, his statement on how retirement is really just one giant vacation makes it sound like all one would be doing is spending money since retirees are no longer earning money. Once again, this is total BS, as I've been retired for a few years now, and my nest egg just keeps on growing still. So for this advice, it should be no surprise that I'd say, oh yeah, this is what's worse than horrible. Ignore, please, please, please. Number 20, most conventional investment advice is of dubious value, and he even says to be nice, of dubious value. I find this advice to be ironic because I agree with the statement, but I count this Harvard economist, with the conventional group, to be frank. I think he thinks he's special, but his advice has been mostly horrible, I think. So I'm going to call this meta-reference neutral on its own. He is part of the problem. Number 21, Lucky 21 says, if you're worried about the downside, play the stock market like a casino. Yeah, people who call the stock market a casino or like a casino must not be aware of how casinos work, or crypto, for instance. I mean, this just tells me this writer must be very old. Not only that, but also not invested in the market, right? I guess that makes sense because he previously assumed returns of 100K at 1.5% a year. I mean, needless to say, I think this is, again, horrible advice. I would never go to the casino, but I'm totally comfortable being in the market. Our expert in trying to justify this last point actually says, you shouldn't put more money into the stock market until your initial bets are safe from losses. This is so absurd to me. When would any bet in a casino-like setting ever be safe from losses? The sentence doesn't make any sense. Ugh, this hurts my brain. Okay. Anyway, let's do a tally, shall we? Out of 21, I count 7, yes do it, 6 neutrals, and 8 horrible. Yeah, it's mostly bad. Even the neutral pieces of advice just seem like they were written to pad the length of the list, to be frank. And I'd say most of the good advice is on traditional retirement and how to take Social Security, which tells me this dude can only think of you guys as willing worker bees who toe the company line, waiting for your turn to get old and die off already. For a trained economist, the author seems to completely lack vision or how to actually, make enough money to get out of the grind. Now, in some ways, I sigh because I hope this man's better at his actual job of reading the economy than giving people usable money advice, right? But in other ways, I'm also happy because he represents the type of person who will prop up the current way of working too hard and too much and encouraging everyone else to do the same. I mean, I don't mind being in the minority. It's thanks to people like this expert and people who listen to him that I can enjoy my early retirement, right? I kid. So am I off my rockers? Do you agree with this dude more than I did? I mean, obviously, I have to say again, I think I'm still more qualified to talk about the subject of money, right? Because I'm pretty sure I have more freedom. Comment, share, like, and sub, and all that social media nonsense. Or whatever, okay? Cheers. À la prochaine.